all right, if you zeroed out the library and you cut every other department by 10%, that's a disproportional cut. You won't get a waiver, okay? Doesn't work like that. The library, the Boynton Public Library was not disproportionately cut. I believe it was a 5% cut. And that was like in the mid-range. Some departments took a much heavier hit. So it wasn't a disproportional cut. But in order to get the waiver, we as a board need to send a letter of support explaining what we did, why we did, how we did it, and that it is not disproportionate. So I would make a motion that we send this letter. Do you want me to read it? It's really
No, I
not
don't
exciting.
think
So I would make a motion that we sign this letter to be sent to the Mass Board of Library Commissioners.
Second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none. Julie?
Yes.
Virginia?
Yes.
And Patrick?
Yes.
I am not reading the North Main Street announcement. I spoke to the chief today, and they haven't gotten state approval on closing that road yet. So
Oh,
he's hoping they get it, because if they do, they can finish that project this week. But as of 2 o'clock this afternoon, they had not gotten.
That's posted on the website. So.
They had
yeah,
not.
it
Well,
is, I know.
it was closed today anyway, I guess, because there was a water main break right there, but.
Their fault, their fault. The highway guys' fault. I mean, not the highway guys, no, the state highway guys. State guys were.
Contractor caused that.
That's it, the contractor, that's what I was trying to say.
Okay, so the next thing I have is just the annual trick-or-treat announcement. It will be on October 31st from 5 to 7 p.m. So, make your plans. It's a Wednesday, I believe. So, any?
I noticed that a few, oh, there he is. I noticed that a few
Quiet, please.
emails that I've gotten from either from Jeff or from different people on the board have not included Jeff Bennett. Aren't we supposed to be still including him on
Yeah.
all of the, okay.
I am including everybody when I send. I just reply to all usually, because I'm not sending them out. But, yeah, he should be included,
Yeah.
because he does read his email.
Okay.
Sometimes you don't see all the names, like I just see Jeff, but I know it went to everybody because I get replies back from other people. My email's kind of weird like that.
Yeah, it depends on how you set it up.
Yeah.
But I do believe you've raised a good point, Virginia, in that I believe Jeff Bennett should be receiving all the packet material electronically, so that he can keep up with.
Whatever, yeah, whatever we can send electronically.
Because there may be a point in time where he is participating remotely and he will
Yeah.
need this documentation.
Yep.
Okay, anybody else have anything?
I do have a couple things.
Okay.
Okay. We did the waiver for the Mass Board of Library Commissioners. The other thing that has come up, and it does concern me, is taxes that have been unpaid in the town, and whether or not we've placed liens, and whether or not we have, when was the last time we put a notice in the newspaper for delinquent taxpayers?
I don't think they've done any of that in the last
Just
year.
do one this
probably.
week.
Say what?
Wasn't there just one in this week?
No, I think that was a foreclosure.
Oh, all right.
That's different.
Okay.
Okay? And I just think it's time when, I think if we look at the amount of money that is owed to the town in delinquent taxes, not just for this fiscal year, but for prior fiscal years, we wouldn't have had to make the cuts that we had to make at town meeting. Hours wouldn't have been cut, positions wouldn't have been cut. So I think it's in the town's best interest to look at posting and publishing a list of people who are delinquent in their taxes.
I agree.
Yes, Sue?
I mentioned this before. Carol Lee had said to me that it was going to cost her roughly $4,500 to place the list of 2,011 people in tax title, and that does not include publishing it. Now, I know somebody had mentioned possibly she could publish it shorter and not do the whole description thing, just put the person's name and the year and the amount. But I know it runs her about $1,500 a page when she does do that. She does not have that money in her budget every year. You know, she's, but I'm not sure, can she,
Deficit spending?
yeah, deficit spend, I know Tammy can, I don't know if she
She
can.
can if there's an offset against a collectible, as this would be.
Okay. because-
Secondly, she can publish a general announcement on the newspaper, saving time, space, and money, directing them to the town's website where a complete list can be published
Okay.
for free electronically.
Because my personal feeling is we have a lot of 2011s and we have 2012. I mean, we are in 13. 13, the second payment is due November 1st.
Right.
I mean, that's in a few weeks. The second thing is with the amount of bankruptcies, foreclosures, everything else, we inevitably do get our money, but with things happening, if somebody files for bankruptcy, we cannot then put them into tax title. She has to wait. Same with, we've got a couple of estates out there. You know, I think she should go through, and honestly, I think she should, the town should give her the support to put the liens for the amount of it's gonna cost, for what she could possibly collect, because I'll tell you right now, there's a bunch of them will come forward and collect rather than lose their money, and on the other hand, we should also give whoever gets hired as treasurer the go-ahead to start working on taking those properties, because we have a lot also in tax title. I mean, we have a huge amount that I can guarantee you, if you started foreclosing on those people, there are a lot of those people that would come forward and pay. And while we're on that subject, there are 5 parcels we now own. We might want to think about putting them in the paper for bids. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them are building lots. One of them we're waiting for a final decree, which I believe Copeland and Page charged us for doing some work on, that they never did the final thing. We should look into that. I told Deb Dennis not to allow you to pay it, not to pay it because they didn't do anything on it. It never, the file never left the office, so I don't know. But there's 5 parcels we could get some money for.
Put an article on special.
So we owe them, I mean, we own them
We own them,
outright?
they've gone through their year of waiting. After it's deemed
Yeah.
to the town, there's a year that they still have that they can redeem it.
Mhm.
We've been through that year. They are Templeton's,
Okay.
2 Hill Factory Road, South Main Street, building lot, Hill Factory Road, Turner Lane.
River Road?
River Road is finally, we can do that.
Yeah, I would say we
There's
should.
a final degree needed on one that abuts both Farnsworth and South. It's, we need to do that. At least we could get some money for them.
Frank?
How much money total do you think is owed the town?
For what, the tax?
Tax and back?
Wasn't one year like
Unpaid.
The
140,000?
rough number is about 100, if you ignore certain large properties that are in bankruptcy, like American Tissue,
They're not
about
bankruptcy, they're in tax
$130,000 in back
How much?
taxes are currently owed.
130.
130.
That's like 2000, that's like 2012, 2011 together.
Correct.
Yeah, so then you've got, that's just what is still in Carol Lee's office. That's the one that has no tax title liens
No
on
liens
it.
on it.
Then we've got the stuff in tax title, which, like Jeff says, you've got to take out all the American Tissue Mills property. But there's still, I mean, there's an awful lot of people there that owe upwards of $20,000. And they're people who are in town, you know?
Will, did you want to say something?
Yeah, the only thing I would say, when we do sell the property, we have a minimum bid, instead of just leaving it per se, is to get some level of assessment on that property and set a minimum bid so that we're not taking and giving away property either. I mean, I'm not advocating going out and saying that, okay, the property is worth 100,000, we should have the minimum bid 100,000. No, I'm saying that 100,000, maybe the property is valued, but we should get at least 60 to 70% of that maybe. I mean, that's not for me to determine, but at least we should look at that as a minimum.
Yeah, so,
But the point is, we want to get rid of it and get it back on the tax rolls.
Right.
So even if it's say one of quote, what is a building lot out on Turner Lane, okay? And, somebody gives you 10 grand for it. Right now, my building lots are well, none of them are selling anyway, nobody's selling anything, but the current assessment is 38,000 for a quote building lot. So even if someone's willing to give the town 10 grand, that's the highest bid, get it back on the tax rolls. It's not earning anything with the town owning it.
right. Now, when the town owns it like that, we don't go after them for back taxes, we just sell the lot to them, or the house, or
They
whatever.
have to pay whatever is,
They do,
they,
okay.
yeah, and it's buyer beware, they do their due diligence, they have to go, and then years and years and years ago, my father bought some property from Templeton at a tax auction, and I know then the lawyer had to go and track down the heirs and all that stuff, and, but that was
Yeah,
what he had to do. The town was like, here it is,
Okay.
this.
okay.
So I'm going to make a motion to direct the town coordinator to facilitate the process to move it along
Of
of
the sale of those, or of the?
publishing,
All of the above.
all of the above. All of the
I
above.
heard mention of a special article at town meeting for perhaps the funds necessary to do tax title. Would you like to include that?
I think that would be a good idea.
I think at this point,
Yep.
that would make sense.
So all of the above.
All of the
Check
above.
box, Steve, all of the above.
Okay, that's a wonderful motion.
So,
I'll put it on the
Second.
list.
So
Put it on the
the-
list of things to
They just
do.
put the name and the amount.
yeah, getting the list
area,
going,
and that's it. That's all.
back taxes and then tax titles, and then starting the process of selling these properties that we own so we can get rid of them. I didn't realize we had them all clear.
Yeah, they were five of them that are ready to go.
Great.
They're
So-
ready to go for a year.
Did you second that motion?
I did.
Okay. Any other discussion, Sue?
Do we have a tax title attorney now?
I think our attorney does it all.
You do tax title also? Okay.
Any other, yeah, Will, did you want to say?
If you're going on to something else.
No, we're still in, we did a motion on that, we're just still
Okay.
discussing that.
Okay.
Okay. Pat?
Yes.
Virginia?
Yes.
And Julie?
Yes.
Now you can speak.
Thank you. I'm sorry I'm late. I've attended, this is my fourth meeting today. I don't know what you've discussed on East Templeton. If you could please bring the advisory board chairman up to speed, I'd like to think and end up giving you some additional information if you haven't.
We spoke about getting a performance contract person in there to look at the building.
Yep.
Go through with somebody like either Larry or Jeff or one of us to go through the building with them, give them an idea of what, they need, how their performance contracts work, and then possibly going out to bid on a performance contract for that
Okay.
building.
As I mentioned at the last meeting when we brought it up as recommendations to the board, I didn't get any pushback, so I took that as the ability for me to go off and do a number of things looking at East Templeton. I hope I haven't overstepped my bounds. But here's a number of things that your advisory board chairman has done. And it's really up to you whether you go forward with whichever direction. I've talked to a local heating contractor. He basically said that that's not the type of heating system I could end up working on. But he did suggest going to a larger firm, such as Royal Steam or whatever, to get an estimate. He also indicated that they may end up doing that as a public service for about a couple hours to look at the system and make a recommendation on the heating system. That's number one. Number two is that I know that we remediated the black mold in there, and there was concern about water runoff off the building. And because the gutters are all wooden gutters, they're no longer feasible. And it was suggested in some conversations that maybe we should get at least some type of gutters to make sure the water is run off on at least two sides, so that we're not having the water run against the building and even further have mold develop there, since we put some money in. In fact, I think when I talked to Jeff, the individual that did the remediation was very open to helping the community actually put gutters up, volunteer-wise. I talked to one of the businesses, and because I know they're community-oriented, asked them if that would be something that they would consider. They are going to consider that. They may come back and provide some monies to end up putting gutters. Person actually ended up indicating that maybe he would end up talking, or at least two individuals that I talked to indicated that they may end up talking to a local gutter company here and see what they could end up doing as a community service. So there's a number of things that around that are possible. I know I asked the last time, because I had some citizens ask volunteer-wise to clean some bushes around that building so that the mortar wouldn't deteriorate. I didn't get any sense, because I asked, it's really up to the board to decide whether that was okay for a person to go ahead and do that work, or some other volunteers so they can end up doing some other work. I didn't get any response back, so I haven't pursued that per se. That individual still asked me whether that was viable. Lastly, is that myself and Charlie just came from the historical committee, and at a vote within this evening, took a while to get a quorum, but they did get a quorum. They voted that it was historically significant as far as cultural goes, which allows us, and they will probably end up sending you a letter to that particular point. This is only on the local level. This is not going to the state registry. That will allow the CPA folks the ability to provide some funds for that building. Whether we choose to put on a roof, and I know I've talked to at least Virginia and said I'd like to take and end up seeing us go out to bid or have some estimate put on that to see where we are. I mean, we need to take and end up getting a handle on that. And I think that those particular things are what really need to take place before we actually begin the CPA process, because now we would have to go out and get other than just a few estimates that are done locally by somebody and say, well, I've measured it up and I estimate this. You'd have to go through the bidding process, and I understand that. So those are some things that I'm presenting to you as options. And the last thing I want to talk about is the fact that I know Virginia and I think it was last week, talked about the fact that, yeah, East Upland is a present solution. I look at it from this particular standpoint, and I hope you all agree with me, is that it will probably take 1 to 2 years before the land is given to us for the elementary school. It'll probably be anywhere from 2 to 3 years before the fruition of that building. Even if our finances get in good shape. And I say in good shape because the town's portion right now, looking at that, 40%, is $14 million. Looking at that, I don't believe that in the 5-year time frame that we, on top of the 17 that we owe, we would end up being able to get in a position to do it within the 5-year period. Maybe a few more years after that. So we're looking at 5 years lease on this particular building at an average cost of $50,000. That's a $250,000 savings if we just look at it from that perspective. So I throw these things out to you as to what you would like your advisory board to, Chairman, I could end up asking some additional questions. of the resources that were told to me to go off and get you some more information. But I mean, it's really in your ballpark as to whether you'll allow me to help you out, or whether you want to end up, doing something different.
Yeah.
From a financial standpoint, it makes sense to take and save $250,000.
Do you know if, what the CPA is going to be able to financially give for that school? Like if we put a new roof on?
Yep.
Would they be able to finance that whole roof, do you know, or how is that gonna work?
The CPA is funded at four particular areas, and let me just talk about historical. 10% can go historical, 10% to the other three. So that, I think, or 5%. It works out that there's 70% left over as far as in the general fund that can be funded. So up to about 70% of what they have is my understanding that they could fund. Now, I'm not advocating that we use all of that money.
Right.
I'm advocating that we need to at least stabilize that building, get it in a position where it's at least viable for us to move as a community, as having all the offices or a majority of the offices move and actually get out of two buildings and actually get down, instead of having 4 buildings, have 2 buildings that we have all our departments in. I would say that we're talking in the vicinity of about $400 to $500,000 that could be available. Whether or not we tend to want to do that, I'm not sure. We would have to go out and get estimates for that. I mean, and that's just my estimation. Just from what I talked with the chairman of the Conservation Preservation Committee this evening about that, and that's kind of the indication that I feel comfortable about talking about. It could be more, it could be a little bit less, but at least I would say it's at least $250,000.
Okay.
But I don't want to pick and see us unless.
You mean you talked to CPA, right, not conservation?
CPA.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
John.
Yeah.
Okay. Virginia?
A couple of things we have to keep in mind is that we want to get the Templeton Center School roof taken care of too. So we need to watch how much money we're doing for each one so that we can manage to do that. Because we still have to keep kids in there until we get a new school, if we get a new school. And the other thing is, do you know how that binds us from doing anything to the building, selling it?
Yes.
Because
Okay.
Yes, it does.
I noticed you said it's just a local, so not
That's
state.
correct. It won't go on the state. It doesn't necessarily have to go on the state or the country, as far as federal historical register. It can be done on the local level, and that's kind of where we are.
Which means?
Which means,
Which means that it's available for CPA.
But can we, if we wanted to
if
sell
we
it?
wanted to sell it after the
Okay,
fact.
if we wanted to sell it, the only caveat is, and this is why I said you don't want to spend too much money, you want to get at least the building to a usable state, is that if we did sell it, and say we spent $250,000, and we could send it for $250,000, we would end up having to give that $250,000 back to CPA. And it would still be available to the community for other projects.
Okay. Peter?
Well, we're probably gonna have a little longer with the extension with the federal school. They just got extension last week, the other day, for another year. You know that?
Really?
Yeah, they got an extension for another year.
The school?
You've already moved some prisoners in from West Boylston last week to start the projects. They told the health that's up there now, they got another year to go. They just got an extension. So we get 2 set on that.
Well, it has nothing to do with what's up there for the new school.
Well, you're just saying that East Templeton Center roof, the Templeton Center School roof.
Right.
Bog says that roof is all right now. He told us that 2 years ago. He goes and gives us a big spiel, that the building's all right, that our asbestos is all gone out of the building, the roof is good, so don't worry.
What'd they do to the roof? Excuse me.
He said he patched it places.
Patched it, yeah, that's exactly what he
Yes,
did.
he did. Okay.
If you look at that building, and I've looked at that a number of times,
September 7th.
the east side of the building is probably, it was done over, and it's in adequate shape, and I say adequate because.
You're talking about Templeton Center, right?
Templeton Center. It doesn't, the shingles are not cupped, they're not worn looking. If you look at the other sides of the building, you'll see that we're gonna end up having to address that. Whether we keep that building or whatever, because we will end up actually losing that building if we don't do anything to that roof.
Exactly.
Because we will have a water leak. I mean, structurally, that building, cosmetically, we need to fix it. Structurally, right now, it's in good shape.
Now, did historical rule on that building, or just East Templeton?
Just the East Templeton one.
Hey,
Yes.
Will, are there any dehumidifiers in the basement in East Templeton?
I'll
There's
defer
one
to-
running now, but the vendor that we hired gave it to us on loan.
Okay.
I'm supposed to follow up because he may have some used that he would give us to just put in there, but we're okay for the winter now that cold weather has arrived. The point is, the important point of information is no matter what else, even if we leave the building closed up this winter, that by March, we need to aerate the building and have dehumidifiers running in the basement. And gutters, even if we don't do the roof, we have to have a gutter system to take the water away from the foundation. So that, the fundamentals, the absolute rock bottom basics are gutters, dehumidify and ventilate the building regularly, open some windows upstairs, whatever. Those are just the
Talking
absolute
about
basis.
buildup of humidity, I can talk to that as a personal issue because where my home is, I run a dehumidifier in the summertime. The wintertime, my dehumidifier
Doesn't work.
is completely off because of the change, and because you're sucking up the groundwater through the concrete. So, I mean, in the summertime is really when it's become significant. The wintertime, you have less humidity in the wintertime, as we all know. You end up, anybody that's a little bit older, they end up with dry skin in the wintertime. So, I mean, that's the other flip side.
Yes.
Do you want us to vote to allow you to proceed? No.
If you would, I mean.
Options.
I mean, I will look at the options and bring back those options to you. I mean, I don't feel uncomfortable about doing that. It's just that I don't want to end up not doing something that the board does not want me to do. I will look at like I said, whatever options I end up finding out or information, I will bring it back. It's really up to you to decide how much further you want to end up going on this project or what you want to do.
I mean, if you can find someone who will do gutters for a very cheap or reduced price, that needs to be done. So whether we move forward and do the roof this year or whatever, that needs to be addressed.
Right. When I did talk with the chairman of the CPA, he did say that we have, because we know we're not going to be able to do anything between now and November 15th. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, it would take earth-shattering things for us to get to that particular point before we could have anything. He looks at it as probably the spring that we would end up being able to get enough information and actually get looking at CPA funds. One of the primary things that the building inspector did point out was the accessibility to that building as far as handicap. That to me would probably be, you could, if you look at that building, the back door, you could end up putting a ramp off of that, rather than putting a lot of money in an elevator, etc. Because now you can at least get to the office. The only thing, if you did use the downstairs, the large area for your meetings, then we would end up probably having to address that at that particular time. And that room is significantly larger. We could probably cut that in half, and you could end up having much more than you have in this conference room as far as the amount of people.
Or 2 meeting rooms.
Pardon?
Yeah, but-
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to
I was
clarify
gonna say-
something.
Go ahead.
Julie was saying about performance contracting that, I just want to make sure I understand this. If they go in there and do a walkthrough, that's gonna cost us, right?
I'm not sure, it may. They may do an estimate, it may cost 5 to 7 cents a square foot for them to create a proposal.
Profit, the
Okay.
contracting.
I thought that when we talked about this, that we were gonna have performance contracting come and talk to us here.
Right,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
That's not what.
That's not
you
what I
just
said, no,
related
no.
to him, yeah.
Oh,
No, I'm not looking at performance contracting, I'm looking from,
Okay.
just from the CPA
Right.
aspect.
no, but I
See,
had
we can
said,
look at both ways.
Right.
We
Yeah.
can look at performance
Yeah.
contracting,
Yeah.
we can look at
Yeah.
CPA,
Yep.
you know?
You gotta get something done so that we don't end up with mold in the cellar again, no matter what. You know, just take care
The
of
big
that.
priority there would be to take and see if we can get some type of gutter system on there so
Right.
we don't end up having, because as we indicated, we had a conversation with Virginia, is that there is equipment for your council of aging in there, and that was the big concern, is that if you can't cut down that mold, now you're just introducing that to another building through the, I mean, there is significant amount of storage over there, and I don't know, Jeff, they put the stuff that they got for, as far as all the equipment for the kitchen?
Eileen's right here.
Oh, I'm sorry,
That's not over there.
that's not over there?
No.
Okay.
Good.
All right, so I will make a motion to allow Wellspring to proceed with our options for East Templeton. So that should cover a lot of territory.
Right, these are only gonna be, these are only gonna be options.
Right.
If
we're
I,
being very vague to these.
and I will not commit, from, you know that I'm not gonna commit from a financial standpoint. Not one cent,
You can hear him
not
scream.
one cent.
I want to hear the end of it.
I won't even be buying this guy a cup of coffee to take, come and take a look.
Squeak, squeak,
Okay,
squeak.
so do I have a second on Julie's motion?
Second, yeah, either way.
So that would also include, you had said something about somebody volunteering to go do the bushes or something?
Yes,
So that would include that.
yes, yes.
We gotta cut the bushes down in front of the building.
You can use volunteers for that.
So any other discussion?
I know Charlie has been there.
I'll cut the bushes down and make them go away.
Look at this, I mean, I got 3 people sitting here to take and end up
Yeah,
making that happen.
We should also, maybe the carpet removed, whether
Yes.
it's a volunteer group, or maybe we can contact the sheriff's
Yep.
department.
All right, so the motion's been made and seconded. Patrick? Yes. Virginia?
Yes.
And Julie?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this.
One other point I would like to make, since I was not here earlier. As you advised me, Chairman, I think you probably talked about your policy
Oh,
this evening.
yes, we do.
Yep.
I don't know where you were with that.
The policies and procedures?
Yes.
Well,
You said it as goals, I believe?
We did.
oh, the financial goals.
Yes.
Yes, that's different than policies.
I would
Actually-
like to publicly thank Virginia Wilder. I did this at my meeting, but I mean, it's more appropriate for me to sit here for her effort on changing the wording and helping the advisory board at least get started in the direction. As I had indicated to her, it may be goals this year for you, but I will be back next year because it does say
It does say,
review annually. But I will try my best to get you to take a look at them as policies.
and we will,
Awesome,
And I thank you very much, Virginia.
and thank you.
okay. Do you have one other thing?
One other thing, I have a packet of material that I left with the Light and Water Commissioners today, and I would like to read this letter, and I would like us to discuss sending this letter as a board to the Light and Water Commissioners at Monday's meetings,
Okay.
okay? It just says, "Dear sirs, as the selectman in the town of Templeton, I formally request a written report on the condition of the water system in Templeton from the manager. Section 2 of Chapter 93 Acts of 2000 states, said manager shall render to the Board of Selectmen as often as they may require a full report of all operations under his control during the period reported upon. The written report should include a detailed analysis of the water information provided by Tater and Howard, specifically for each recommendation in the report entitled," I'll give you a copy, Nancy, "A Water Distribution System Evaluation for Templeton, Mass., February 2001. I would like a list of which Phase 1 and 2 improvements were completed and at what cost. See attached." And I attached those sheets from the report from Tater and Howard. The report should identify the bond payment, long-term debt, the interest rate on that bond, and when the bond is due to retire that is associated with the improvement. What is the useful lifespan of the improvement? The written report should include which water improvements were financed by the 40-year USDA loan. In the written report, please provide a list of water main breaks for the past 4 years. Please list the dates, location, and time of the water main breaks. Other questions. When did the Templeton Developmental Center receive town water? Has a Zone 2 delineation been completed for wellhead protection? When was the town last evaluated for ISO for fire protection, and where is that data? Why was the Back Bay project a priority over Patriots Road? Tater and Howard did not identify the Back Bay water improvements in their report. What is the age of the water main along the length of Baldwinville Road? How many water breaks have occurred on Baldwinville Road? Will the water mains be replaced before the $5 million road reconstruction? How much is budgeted annually for water main replacement? Is the SCADA system in need of replacement or updating? What is the cost to replace or update the SCADA system? What was the cost of the multiple water main breaks that occurred on July 14, 2012? Please include the cost of the water loss as well as repair of roads and water mains. I respectfully request the Commissioners vote to direct the manager to complete this written report. I realize this report will take some time to complete. And then I signed it. I have Chapter 93, Acts of 2000, and the pages from the Tater and Howard report that lists the Phase 1 and Phase 2. So I would like this to be considered for discussion, to send a letter like this to the Light and Water Commissioners.
This is for next week, you mean?
For Monday.
Okay. Virginia?
Jeff and I had talked about this during the week last week, and it was my understanding that he was going to try to go have a conversation with the director of the water department
I have not.
to see if we could get some of this done in a more congenial way, so that we don't have a lot of undue tensions between the departments.
I don't think it was,
Not undue tension.
it's not between the departments, between the taxpayer and the department.
Well, I don't want a conversation, I want something in writing. And that's why I've put my request in writing. And I'm requesting right now so that we can talk about it on Monday. You know, it's one thing to have a conversation, it's another thing to have the data documented. It's just facts, that's all I'm looking for, are facts. And a lot of the facts are already out there, but most people don't know when the light and water meetings are being held. And a lot of people don't attend, and they're not televised. So a lot of people do not get that information, and they don't have a website.
They're working on that.
Well-
Charlie?
I think it was great. The only thing you left out was if you got Baldwinsville Road there, you should have Route 2A in there. From the Gardner line to the Phillipson involved in the same piece of paper.
That's Patriots Road,
That's
that's
Patriots
2A.
Road, that's what I asked about.
That's 2A, Patriots Road.
You said Baldwinsville Road.
But
She said Patriots Road before
I
that.
missed it then,
Yeah.
sorry.
Okay.
Because one gotta go with the other one.
So we'll talk about that on Monday.
Yep. Okay, anything else? Okay.
Chairman.
Yes?
Yeah, I also attended a portion of that meeting over the last couple of meetings. And after that meeting, one of the concerns why I keep going is I want to hear I hear from, and I'm not sure why people have not come to that board or to this board to to look at their water bills. Because I've heard a significant amount of people saying that they've noticed that their bills have increased. In fact, I just came from a meeting where one of the individuals said, I typically pay $90. My water bill was $150. And I says, I don't have the answers for you. So, I mean,
I'll trade water bills with
I'll
them.
trade with you too.
so you really need to end up addressing that directly to them to get some type of response, because I asked questions that I thought were significant early on when I started attending the meetings in June. And I was told, we'll get you answers. I've gone to every meeting, and I have yet have them address that. And I will not sit there and tell them what my questions were originally, because I anticipate that when a citizens come to a board and ask a question, that if they say that they will get an answer, they will provide an answer. And I think that's the thing that Julie is trying to take into saying here, is that maybe if you ask verbally, you won't get anything. If you have to end up asking for it written, you're more liable to do it. The tone has to be in such a manner, and I don't think it's negative, it's just asking for factual information. And that's just my assessment of what I've attended and how I view the information I'm trying to get back from that particular board.
Anything else? I have a few meeting reminders I just want to go through. On your list tonight,
Aren't you gonna take a vote on that?
on what?
Before you vote?
No,
Why?
we're going to discuss it Monday.
Monday. Oh, I thought you were gonna take a vote.
No,
No, she's treating it
She
so
just
that we knew what we were going
wants us to put it on Monday's agenda.
Right.
Chris, I didn't know you were going off new business. I just wanted to let the board know tonight that we're done screening. We finished today. And I'll have some totals for you for your next meeting
Okay.
of actual costs and what our product was.
Okay. All right, if anybody took an agenda for tonight, there's listed a Board of Selectmen meeting Thursday. That has been postponed. The person we were going to interview Thursday can now make the Monday meeting, so we don't have to do that person on Thursday all by themselves. On Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, the elementary school board is doing a site walk. We're meeting at Freight Shed Road at 10 o'clock on Route 202 to walk the two areas of proposal for our new elementary school site. So if anybody's interested, you can come down at 10 o'clock, Freight Shed Road, and meet us there and go through the walk. Wear boots, because one side is woods. Next Monday, we have a meeting in the Kiva at 6 o'clock. We're interviewing 4 candidates for treasurer. And we'll have a couple other agenda items on after that we just discussed. And then next Thursday, the elementary school board committee is meeting here at 6 o'clock after our walkthrough on Saturday. Also, I have on here the planning board is meeting on the 23rd at 6:30. And then, as was mentioned earlier, on the 17th, the personnel board will meet here at 6:30. And that's the end of my announcements. Yeah, on the Board of Selectmen meeting Monday at 6 o'clock, your agendas say 6:30, but the meeting is at 6 o'clock in the Kiva on Monday.
Next Monday?
Monday. At this time, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second?
Julie?
Yes.
Virginia?
Yes.
Pat?